A shame.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Ready?
Yes.
Let's do this. From fabulous Las Vegas, Nevada, this is Pod Therapy. Real people, real problems, and real therapists. You can submit your questions anonymously at podtherapy.net or email us at podtherapyguys@gmail.com. We know you're excited for today's show, but we're unprepared and out of our element and destined to disappoint you. In other words, this episode is brought to you by the University of Iowa men's basketball program.
Oh, stay down, Iowa.
And now, broadcasting from the Churn, that guy is Dr. Jim Jobin. I'm Nick Tangeman. It's time for some
The
Pod
jokes
Therapy.
are back after all that uprising on Twitter. Did you see
That
all
wasn't
this?
even a joke.
Yeah.
Oh, it is.
No, that was-
Hold on. Grade him on a curve.
hold
Grade
on.
him on a curve.
I mean, the University of Iowa basketball program, that's a joke.
That's a joke. That
Really
is a
is.
joke.
Somebody had said something about how my jokes were actually a cry for help.
Yeah.
I can't vouch for the rest of them, but this one definitely
This
is.
one is. Yeah,
This
this
one
is
definitely
There's
a
no
cry
there's
for
no
help.
humor to this. It's
Yeah,
just sadness.
It's just real.
The
It's
one
just-
tear rolling down your cheek when you said it.
Yeah.
Glorious.
I should have known better.
Well, luckily it's your birthday week as this airs.
It
Happy
is.
birthday,
Thank
Nick.
you.
Fabulous 40.
Yeah.
Woo.
Yay.
With your birthday
40.
sash, fierce at 40. I like your
Yes.
pink hat that you're wearing right now. It says birthday
I'm not wearing a
princess.
pink hat right
And I
now.
like the glasses you're wearing. Number 40. Look good. Look
Thank
really
you.
good.
Yes.
With your pink chicken. That's
And
exciting.
my toilet seat.
Yes,
So,
got your
got
toilet
my
seat.
toilet seat
Yep.
from Jacob.
Yep.
Thank you.
That's lovely. And you got
Thank
your
you.
bunt cake so you can try out that toilet seat later. Everything's coming together.
I mean, this shows that he listens because
yeah.
for the past several months, I've been talking about nothing but toilet seats.
Yeah.
And,
Plus, your Amazon wish list is public. You know, it's searchable.
Oh.
Yeah. You didn't know that, but it's in there. So
Okay, good to know.
yeah, that's how we knew. That's how I knew you wanted the pink cowgirl hat.
Thank
so,
you.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I'm glad you'll put it to good use. Congratulations.
Absolutely.
Welcome to. Is this the over the hill? Is that 40? Is that what we say? Or I feel like it's
Yeah.
changed.
No. Well, I mean, over the 40 has traditionally been the over
the hill.
Yeah.
Not for the
But-
Pilgrims. I think that was the end. I think 40 was the oldest man in Pilgrim Town.
15 was over the hill.
Yeah,
I think.
15.
I have read in the past. I want somebody to confirm or tell me that this is wrong because I don't know. But I've read in the past that all of those years where it was like, oh, the average life expectancy is 26 years old and all that kind of stuff. That all of those are skewed.
Oh.
That if you were an adult, your life expectancy was about what it is now. That it was still like 60s and 70s. But the average went way down because so many babies would die.
Yeah, infant mortality.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
That's interesting.
That does make sense.
Somebody tell me, like, I've read before that, like, Middle Ages, it was still, people were still expected to live into their 60s.
Right.
Basically, if you lived to adulthood,
Yeah.
you would make it into your 60s.
But that's
Usually.
1 point toward that end of the average, whereas infant
Yeah.
mortality is going to outweigh that.
Exactly.
That's probably a big point, yeah.
You know
And
what?
You got
You
to
know what?
figure all the exploration and stuff, people dying at sea.
Don't write in. Let's just go with this.
Yeah, that just feels right.
That's what we're
That
sticking
feels
with.
right, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
so congratulations, buddy.
Fact.
You made it to 40.
Yeah, I did. Well, I mean, not yet.
Oh, okay, yeah. Well, as of today. Yeah. But when the listeners hear this, even then I think you're still a couple days away. But whatever.
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
making
Yeah.
it to 40.
Yeah.
Knock on wood.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
You'll get there. Just
yeah.
coast in. Just take your foot off the gas and coast into 40.
I did that at 20. So
I took my foot off the gas at 20.
my foot has not been on the gas in
This
20
has all
years.
been rolling down. Yeah, and it's not steep. I'm coasting through Nebraska.
Yeah.
I stopped a while ago. All right. Well, happy birthday to you.
Oh, thank you.
And the world rejoices, Nick. Rejoices, not merely because of the celebration of your birth, which is wonderful, and I am very grateful for it. The world rejoices in one voice because Dr. Bandy X Lee got fired. They canned her ass at Yale.
Who is that?
She's that stupid psychiatrist. That was the one that was like, Trump has malignant
Oh, that one.
narcissism,
Yeah.
and she was diagnosing. So she finally went too far, and Yale fucking fired her, and I am thrilled about it.
Yeah.
Glorious.
Yeah.
Very, very good news.
Yeah.
So,
these last few days must have been miserable for you to have to wait.
Yes, to talk
until
about it.
we record.
Oh, yeah. Thankfully, I only had to wait 24 hours because Andrew Torres from Opening Arguments tweeted to me because he knows I have special disdain for Dr. Lee. Because he and I did a whole discussion/debate about the Goldwater rule, and she was a big part of that discussion. And so he knows where I stand. But yeah, she got fired from Yale, and I am thrilled about it and excited to tell everybody how it went down.
Now, technically, was she fired? She just wasn't renewed.
Yeah,
right?
they let her go. Yeah,
Yes.
so I don't know. I mean, like,
Technically
everybody
not fired.
Yeah, but professorships are always on a renewal basis.
I think for liable reasons, she was not fired.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
And that's
let's
liable
see.
reasons for
Oh,
you,
yeah,
Joe.
yeah. Good call. Yeah. Hold on. I'd like to amend my previous statements. She is no longer employed at
There
Yale.
we go.
There we
All
go.
right,
Yeah,
cool.
thank you. Whew. Hopefully I'm not a big enough fish for Bandy to care. She'd probably just rather diagnose me with malignant narcissism or something instead.
She already has.
Probably already has.
She might not
She'd
be
probably
wrong.
just let me know. Yeah, I don't know. It's fine.
Ladies and gentlemen, our first guest today.
Oh, no, she's walking in. Jerry. She's got a chair.
And a stripper pole.
What is happening? I don't know. Definitely true Jerry Springer fashion. So, here's the tale of the tape. Here's what happened to Dr. Lee. So, to revisit this, for all of you who can remember the time that I went on a very big rant about this, because I've definitely been angry at this woman for a really long time. Dr. Bandy X Lee is a psychiatrist and a former professor at Yale Medical School, okay? And so back whenever Trump was first getting elected and all this stuff, she published a book called The Dangerous Case of Donald Trump. And it's like subtitle is like X number of psychiatry and mental health professionals speak out. And so her whole bit was she basically said, this guy has essentially a mental disorder. He has a propensity for violence. He's got this new term that she made up called malignant narcissism.
She made that up?
It's
What?
not a clinical term. So she's just, but this is what she does all the time. And this actually is
She
going to.
can't have made that up.
People do this all the time. They just select from the clinician's thesaurus and they just pair words together to create new things. And it's like descriptive. So like we know what you're trying to say when you pair those two words
Right.
together, but it's not a clinical term. That's not a thing. And she does that on purpose because she wants it to sound as clinical as she can
Right.
without it clearly being a diagnostic term. So she is the one who wrote this book, and then she went on a parade all over media and said, yep, I am a violence expert, which I had all these issues with, and I know what I'm talking about, and I have sized him up, and I have watched his speeches, and I have blah, 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 and this man is blah, blah, blah. Okay. And my big beef with that, everybody remembers, was not that I like the former president. In fact, I did not vote for him. But I thought that was horrific because you are weaponizing mental health terminology to attack a political man because you believe you have this duty to warn, which is an interesting discussion to have, but we already had it. As a profession, we had that discussion. There's an entire referendum back in the Goldwater era when Goldwater was running for president. A bunch of people were caught up in this news article about it. Blah, blah, blah. Go back and listen to the archives if you want to understand that. So here's what happened to Bandy. So Dr. Lee decided that she, now that Trump's gone, she don't have nothing to do no mo. And she needed to continue to be super relevant and continue to be a political commentator. So there is a very famous lawyer, Alan Dershowitz. And Dershowitz is the like quintessential ultra-conservative guy, lawyer. He's the dude who goes to the Supreme Court for you. He's pretty top dog in that bubble of influence, right? So he was very much representing Trump in all of these different things. And at some point, it came out that Jeffrey Epstein had some kind of affiliation with Dershowitz, and that there was a thing about that, and Dershowitz was questioned about it. It wasn't the smoking gun affiliation. It was just interesting media fodder. There's like pictures of Epstein with Trump, too. You know, the guy was famous. And so Dershowitz made a statement, and he said something to the effect of like, my relationship with my wife is perfectly normal or perfectly happy or something like that. And he was trying to say, like, I have not had affairs on my wife in Epstein's, like, weird pleasure dome. Like, that's not a thing. And so he was defending...
Sex Island.
Yeah, there you go. He's defending his relationship, and he made a statement about that. Dr. Lee was consulted on this, and she said something to the effect of, like, Dershowitz has a shared psychosis with Donald Trump because he's inside of the bubble of influence of Donald Trump's malignant narcissism empire. And so because of this, he too is delusional about this, and the way he's defending his marriage really implies that there's more going on. Dershowitz is a lawyer, and he acted like a lawyer.
Right.
And he got a hold of Yale, and he filed a formal complaint. And Yale said, "You're right. She should not talk like that." And then it turns out that Yale discontinues her contract and says, "You got to peace out." She sues and says, "You wrongfully are letting me go, infringing on my First Amendment rights." So Yale issued a statement and basically said, "Oh, no."
Yale said, "Fuck you."
Yeah, no. We're not letting you just say that. Like, no. Yeah, so they had
Yale,
thoughts.
fuck you.
They had thoughts. So it's interesting because Yale actually released statements like demonstrating they had written her up previously, before the Dershowitz thing. Like, they wrote her up a while ago,
right,
and like had alerted her, "Hey, you are in the news, and you always reference Yale. You always say Yale psychiatrist. You need to stop doing that."
Okay, so here's what we're going to do.
Yeah.
You're going to read Yale's statement that they put out.
Yes.
And I am going to do the, shit, I just forgot the, Key and Peele. The Key and Peele bit.
Oh, the angry interpreter.
The Barack Obama angry black man interpreter.
Yeah, I like it.
I'm not an angry black man. I'm just going to be angry Yale. So
Angry
you
Yale.
read public Yale,
and
I'll be the angry Yale interpreter.
Here's Yale's first email to her back whenever she was first doing
Go
this,
ahead.
before they let her go. The chair of the Yale Medical School wrote to her and said, "Please stop using Yale and please stop diagnosing the president." And then he said this: "You are putting me in a position where I have to ask, is this the sort of person that I can trust to teach medical students, residents, and forensic psychology fellows?"
What the fuck are you doing?
Essentially, that was it. You're putting me in a position where I have to ask, are you a teacher? Like, can I really trust you to educate these other people when you're doing pseudo-ethical things?
Go ahead, keep going.
Yeah, okay. Then, after she got the filing by Dershowitz, where Dershowitz contacts Yale and says, "Listen, this is on you guys. Like, you're knowingly aiding and abetting this. I'm filing a complaint."
Right.
Yale says they're letting her go. She claps back and says, "Oh, I'm suing you, First Amendment, First Amendment." This was their statement, and it's a couple of sentences. They say, "You did not make these statements about Dershowitz and about the president. You did not make these statements as a layperson offering a political judgment. You made them explicitly in your professional capacity as a psychiatrist and on the basis of your psychiatric knowledge and judgment. For that reason, the committee decided it was appropriate to consider how these statements reflected your ability to teach our students."
You out there talking, you out there and you won't stop your fucking mouth for 2 goddamn minutes, and when you out there flapping your fucking gums, you need to keep our name out your mouth.
And that is the ball game. So Yale said, "Peace." And they convened a committee. They investigated her and they said, "You are unfit to be here. We don't want you teaching people anymore." And then they just said it out loud. They said, "You have been disparaging these people from your intellectual capacity as a psychiatry person."
Now, this was a question that I had, and I think I might have asked this when we had this conversation initially, and I'll ask it again.
Yes.
Maybe I didn't ask before. I don't know. What are the libel things here? What are the libel rules here? The libel laws? And maybe one of our legal PodTherapods can weigh in on this. If you, as a clinical psychologist,
right,
says that just somebody, pick a random celebrity,
Kanye.
Yeah. If you say that, well, let's pick somebody who's
not obvious.
Yeah.
Dolly Parton.
Tom Hanks.
Tom Hanks.
But Dolly Parton is a fine example.
The driven snow.
If you say that Dolly Parton is, and you name some kind of clinical diagnosis,
right?
you don't know Dolly Parton. You've never met Dolly Parton.
Right.
You've certainly not had sessions with Dolly Parton. And if you had, you couldn't say these things out loud anyway.
Correct.
Right.
What is the libel law there? If you say, I, Jim Jobin, licensed clinical psychologist in the state of Nevada.
Thanks for the promotion, but keep going.
I say that Dolly Parton is a kleptomaniac.
Yeah.
Like, she can just turn around and sue you for everything, I would think.
Here's the difference. Public officials can't. Because of the nature of their position, they are going to be discussed. And because they are going to be discussed as a president or a senator or a governor.
And that's the thing, though. I think I can say it.
Yeah.
I think I can say, I, Jacob Smith,
Right.
idiot podcaster.
I think this.
And life
Thinks
coach.
And life coach.
And life coach. And
You have
life
a
coach.
shirt.
Yeah, thank you.
Here's
thank
a
you.
shirt.
I have business cards. But even that, like life coach,
Yeah.
there's no licensing board behind
Right.
behind life coaches.
There's no repercussion.
Even
Yeah.
if I say, I, Jacob Smith, life coach, think that Dolly Parton is a kleptomaniac.
Right.
By the way, we have no evidence that Dolly Parton is a kleptomaniac.
We love you, Dolly.
Yeah, Dolly Parton is a national treasure.
Yes. Thank you for the vaccines.
And it sure seems like if you are using your platform
Right.
that is some kind of licensed clinician
Right.
to say these things,
Yeah.
it seems like at the very least that licensing board would come after you.
So here's
and at
what-
the very most,
Right.
there would be legal ramifications.
There was. So the Goldwater rule, which is what
Mm-hmm.
that's the placeholder idea of don't do this if you're in psychology, is named Goldwater rule because Goldwater sued Ginsburg. Ginsburg
Right.
was the editor who published a magazine, and the magazine is the one that sent surveys out to psychiatrists and ran an article that said 1,001 psychiatrists say that Goldwater mentally unfit to be president. So then Goldwater lost the election, and then he sued. And the argument at the time was, well, you can't sue because you were a public candidate, and politicians can't do that. Like there's and some politicians do. Like there's a congressman in
Sure.
California, Newsom, or not Newsom, the other guy. That's always Gavin. I don't know.
Gavin Newsom is the governor of California.
He's the governor. Yeah, there's another guy. He's the guy that Nunes.
Devin Nunes.
Yeah, Devin Nunes.
Okay.
He gets mocked all the time about the Devin Nunes cow thing, and he's like suing people for libel. They can try, but a lot
I
of
have
times
no
judges.
idea what you're talking about.
It's a thing. But judges often throw it out because they're like, listen, you're a public figure, you're a politician. They can say you eat babies. You know,
Right.
like they do say you eat babies.
Yeah.
And we're not going to,
I believe they
disparage-
say Hillary Clinton eats babies.
Right. And we're not going to start tracking down every single part. You knew what you signed up for. But in Goldwater's case, he lost and he sued for damages. And his damages was, I didn't get a job because you falsely diagnosed me.
Yes.
And he won. And that's when
then
the
who did he
American
go
Psychiatric. Well, he went after the magazine. So he bankrupted the magazine.
Okay.
He did not choose to continue to go on for the psychiatrist.
It seems like he could have gone after each and every.
It could have been a class.
person.
Yeah, he could have
Yeah.
gone for, I don't know. I'm sure his lawyer said don't, because there may be anonymous surveys or whatever and it have been too hard
Right,
to find them. But we're
Yeah, if there were actual names on there like Dr. So and so,
Right.
It seems like you could go after Dr. So and so.
well,
Yeah.
and the psychiatry folks got away on this case by the skin of their teeth because
Yeah.
what turned out was that Ginsburg, not only did the bad thing happen of all these psychiatrists writing in, and it was stupid. It was a very biased survey. It was just basically, and then what happened was, of the people that sent it back in, obviously the ones that send it in are the ones motivated because they don't like Goldwater or whatever. And so he already has a biased survey stack. Then he took that and he curated it. So the editor-in-chief of the magazine, he threw out any of the surveys that said Goldwater's fine. And he kept the ones, and that's how he created 1,001 psychiatrists say. So he misrepresented what the thing even said. So that was part of the suit, which is how Goldwater just dunked on the dude and dropped him out of business. But that last little effort, that last little malfeasance by the editor protected the psychiatrist. Because the psychiatrist lawyer can be like, whoa. That dude lied. He's the liar. That's where the crime stops. You can't keep coming back for us. We answered a survey.
Right.
We didn't know that survey was even going to be released to the public. We get surveys all the time. You're a public figure. We didn't know. So he didn't continue his hunt for the psychiatrist. But in response, the APA, the American Psychiatric Association, was so horrified by the potential ramifications of this, not just for legal liability and bankrupting a profession, but because you've weaponized mental health into a political sphere. There's no end to that monster. Once you release that, you can never get the genie back in the bottle.
Oh, yeah.
So I think there's two components here. Number one would be kind of the legal aspect of the libel, but I think the bigger issue is the licensing.
Right.
So if a public figure or anybody wanted to do that today, going after a psychologist or a therapist or something like that, what you'd really want to do is file a complaint with the board.
Well, and so that's been the question of her repercussions. So throughout the thing, it's been like, could Donald Trump sue her? And most people said probably not. Even though Trump's sue happy if he really wanted to, she never was a big enough deal that he cared.
He could
Trump
could sue anybody.
He'll
for
sue everyone.
anything.
He could do whatever he wants.
Dershowitz
could have sued her.
Right.
Dershowitz didn't, and he's a lawyer. Dershowitz went for where he knew it would hurt her. Because he could tie her up in court, and, apparently Dershowitz has better things to do. He didn't care. But what Dershowitz did is he hurt her where he knew he could hurt her the most. He went to Yale to discredit her. So the way, if you really wanted to hurt Bandy, you either go to her board of psychiatry and get her license revoked or suspended.
Which we don't even know if she's actually licensed.
We looked into it. Yeah, she is. I did whenever we did that episode. So you could go to the board, and she was licensed in Maryland or something like that. You can go there and try to get her investigated or get her suspended there. Tall order, harder to do. You can go to the American Psychiatric Association and ask them to do an ethics investigation into her, which they've been asked if they are doing, and they said it is our policy not to disclose those kinds of investigations because it is done privately.
Okay.
But also, these associations have no true power over you. Like, I'm president of the Nevada Counseling Association. There's a bunch of therapists that are members of the Nevada Counseling Association. If you write in and say, hey, Nick is a bad therapist and I'm mad at him, I want you to investigate him. I can look into it in the capacity that he is a member, and I can say, oh, Nick is a bad member. He didn't uphold the ethics. And then call Nick and be like, you're not welcome back as a member. Okay. That doesn't affect his career. It means he can't say, I'm a member of the Nevada Counseling Association anymore. Right. Big whoop. And that's the same thing with the APA.
But it also depends on...
It'll affect insurance.
How big that
who they
company
are.
is, and then sometimes losing something like that would make a big deal.
The APA is not nothing. The Nevada Counseling Association is nothing. The APA is not nothing. And so, it can affect things like credentialing down the road. But it wouldn't have been the end of the world, and she could have lost that. She never did. But Dershowitz went to Yale and said, you are her employer. She is using your name to add credibility to these insults. She is in charge of educating students to do this profession, and this is how she does the profession in a way that is screechingly bad. And so they said, yup, we've already written her up for this. So they let her go. She said, how dare you? And they said, you are bad at teaching people things. We don't want students to do this. Yep. They said, nah, dog, you out of here. You made these statements in your capacity as a psychiatrist. You out. Which is sweet redemption. That's always the way I wanted this to end. I didn't want the woman to get sued because that doesn't speak to the ethics of the thing.
Right.
My beef was never whether or not Trump is a good or bad president or whether this is going to hurt his chances for re-election. I don't care. I never cared. I cared about what you're doing to mental health as a concept and all the hurting humans that deserve help, but that might be scared by a person like you and think, well, I don't want to be labeled, or I'm a conservative. Is she going to call me a malignant narcissist? You deserve help. You don't have to be fearful. So this is always the way I wanted it to end. I either wanted her board to hurt her, which I knew they would never do, because boards only care about individual claims of malfeasance in the state in which you're practicing. They don't even have jurisdiction over a Dershowitz complaining from Virginia kind of thing.
Right.
They just can't look into it. They only have capacity over the citizens and the treatment of citizens in that state of the board. So I always knew the board would probably never care, because I don't even think she has a caseload. I don't think she treats anybody anymore.
Right.
And she's technically still a resident at a hospital, but whatever. So I always was hoping that it would be Yale or the APA. And I didn't, the APA does everything quietly. They never make big statements. So I just assumed it would be. But Yale did it. Yale did it and said, nah, dog, you take Yale out of your mouth. No more business cards. You no longer have the prestige of anything having to do with our departments. We don't think that our students should learn from a person like you. Get
also,
out.
Yale, I'm speaking to Yale as an institution right
Yale
now.
listens. Yeah.
Yale, if you need somebody to be your angry mouthpiece,
Jacob's available.
I am available. I am willing to make public statements on
your
behalf of Yale University.
You know what? You know what? Just start doing it. They'll hire you.
Just do it. Just do it.
No, they've already gotten their taste.
Yeah.
They've gotten their free taste.
I mean, just giving this away. Okay, like the Joker said, if you're good at something, don't do it for free.
Yeah.
Okay, that's right. So, Dr. Lee, shame on you. You should not have done this. And I think now you have been officially reprimanded by your colleagues and by your institution of learning and by your profession and by this podcast. Stay down, Dr. Lee.
Just quick question.
Yes.
On a personal note,
Yes.
which is more satisfying, this or winning March Madness in our pool?
This.
Yeah.
This all day.
Yeah.
This has been a stick up my ass for years. This is the number one thing I've been angry about in our profession for a really long time.
Now probably I realize you've got 2 kids, but this is probably the biggest.
This is my third child
of your life.
Yeah, this is my third child. Yeah. Yeah.
Do you remember saying that Nick and I could put a bumper sticker on your car if she got fired from Yale?
I do.
I don't remember that.
Yeah,
I don't remember any of this.
2 out of 3 people in this room remember that.
Yep.
I'm so passionate about this.
Excuse me, I have to go put a bumper sticker on your car.
I think this should be in the merch store. Stay down, Lee. Like something. I think that I would buy that shirt all day. But her days are over. Now she's so discredited that the only story...
I don't know. I would just suggest not making money off of her.
Yeah, that's probably a good idea. Yeah, I'm already playing in a really deep landmine field of potential ways that I have said mean things about this person.
Yeah.
But whatever. At the end of the day, it is good for psychology. It is good for mental health. It is good for the public trust that people like this got discredited by their institution.
I agree with that.
Yep. Now you don't have to be scared anymore. Can people like her or me go around and talk trash about you even though we've never met you as a patient?
Yes, they can.
As long as we don't use mental health words, we should.
And as long as they don't work for Yale.
There are consequences. Yeah, I guess I could. Yale can't fire me.
Yeah.
They could send a letter saying, just so you know, never call us again.
Yeah.
Please stop saying our name. It's a different Yale.
Yale College. Yale City College.
Yeah. Have you heard that joke where the guy's in the interview and the interviewer says, so you have a gap here in your resume of 5 years. What was that? And the guy says, oh, that's when I was in Yale. And he goes, oh, okay, wow, Yale, that's really impressive. And oh God, how does the bit go? The guy mispronounces his J's. And so like they
jail.
Yeah, it's jail. And so like the second half of the bit is like, I don't know. He says something else.
Good joke, Jim.
Yeah.
Solid.
I'm not a comedian. Okay.
Agreed.
I can't do it. That's why you write the jokes. Okay. Bye, Dr. Lee. Enjoy never being talked about again. You're no longer relevant. Discredited.
But let us know if you want to come on the show.
Yeah, no, that would be great. Yeah, no, I'd love to have you. And we'll treat you with respect as all guests deserve.
Correct.
And I will refer to you as Bandy the entire time.
I will not make fun of you more than I make fun of Jim.
That's guaranteed. Yeah, no, nobody has to be afraid of that.
I will give you and Jim equal time.
Yeah.
Oh.
That's the one thing I never worry about is like, will anybody ever feel like Jim has a superiority complex on the show? No, Jacob and Nick won't let that happen.
Yeah.
You could come in here as Satan yourself and they're still going to take shots at me.
Yeah.
They don't care.
Yeah. We have to, it's our job to contain this.
That's right. Yeah. It's like, we're just here to calibrate. All right. Well, that's the end of the first segment. We are going to take a quick break. When we come back, we are discussing retail therapy. You're listening to Pod Therapy.
Today's episode is brought to you by Ellie O'Dare, Judy Schneider, Mason Miller, and Leon Cassab. Thank you for sponsoring the show. And if you would like to sponsor the show and become a therapy producer, go to patreon.com/therapy. And our trivia, in honor of our therapy producers, is famous guitars.
Ooh,
Okay.
I have a shot at this one.
Your job is to match the guitar player with their famous guitar.
Okay.
I will read off the guitar, and you have to tell me who the guitarist was.
All right.
There's 4 of them.
All right.
Okay? The first one is Muddy Wood. The second one is Blackie. Third one is Frankenstrat. And the fourth one is Trigger.
Wow.
If you'd like to join the therapy producers and make the show possible, go to patreon.com/therapy and sign up again. And again, thanks for supporting mental health.
I know one for sure.
Okay. I can make this multiple choice if you'd like.
I might need
Let's
that.
see if you could guess any of them first.
Are you just going to give us the names, then we have to tie them to the right person?
I know Trigger.
Okay.
Trigger is Willie.
Yep.
Willie Nelson?
Yep.
Oh, wow. That's cool. The Blackie one
Frankenstrat, I know
scares
I've
me.
heard. Frankenstrat, I think I'll know with a list.
Yeah, I think you will too.
Blackie?
I think you'll know that one with the list too.
And what was the other one?
Muddy Wood.
All right, give us the list.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think I'll know all of them with a list. Go ahead.
Okay. We've got Eric Clapton,
Uh-huh.
Eddie Van Halen, and Billy Gibbons.
Muddy Wood, Billy Gibbons, Blackie, Clapton, and Van Halen, Frankenstrat.
I'm going to go with Van Halen Frankenstrat just because that one feels right. I have no clue about the others.
Okay.
Also, I know who Clapton is, but I don't know who the other guy is.
Billy Gibbons?
Not a
ZZ Top.
ZZ Top.
Oh, of course.
Yeah. And yes, you're correct.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yes. Muddy
Well
Wood,
done.
Billy Gibbons, Blackie, Eric Clapton, Frankenstrat, Eddie Van Halen, and Trigger is Willie Nelson.
Yeah.
Wow. Nice,
Way to
dude.
go.
Well done. Well
right.
done. Do you name your guitars, Nick?
No.
And that's
should.
why you're not
I
famous.
should.
I
That's
thought
the
for
reason
sure,
why.
as soon as you said the category, I thought B.B. King would be on there.
Oh, just wait.
Oh, is that part two?
We've got one more commercial.
Oh, okay. Oh, I didn't realize we were going to continue naming
got,
guitars for the second commercial as well.
We've got one more set.
Oh, okay.
Oh, jeez. All right.
I just as soon as you said it, I was like, oh, here comes B.B. King.
Yep.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
I don't know any of those.
You'll know
Okay.
BB. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
exciting. All right, the letter is a quick one. It says, "Hey guys, I'm in therapy and medicated, but I'm still addicted to the hit of dopamine that shopping gives me. I know this is only a short-term fix. Any suggestions on how I can stop myself from engaging in this behavior? Thanks, Anonymous." Short and sweet.
Yeah.
Is it?
Short and sweet.
I'm assuming they mean shopping and purchasing,
Yeah, I think so.
Right.
I don't think they just mean add to cart and then ignore. I think they
or like
mean
window
buy it.
shopping type thing. Yeah.
No, we had a question a while back on that, I think. Like, do you get anything out of window shopping?
Yeah.
That's when I was like, I can't do that.
Yeah.
This one's saying they're a compulsive shopper. They're addicted to shopping. I think that's where.
So, yeah, I mean, and one of the things that we talk about in addiction is we kind of divide it up into like chemical addictions and process addictions.
Right.
Not to say that process addictions don't have a chemical component, because they do with dopamine.
Well, they're all doing the
Essentially-
same thing.
Right. It's
Yeah.
it's reacting in the same rewards pathway of the brain.
It's just
So
how you're
it's-
getting the brain to do it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Are we doing it through behavior, or are we doing it by introducing a foreign substance?
Right.
But ultimately, it works pretty much the same way. So I don't know. I have a few tips.
Yeah.
I would say first, I would start with some form of a detox, just kind of a cleanse, just to make a commitment to take some time away from shopping. And if you decide to do this, I think it's really important that you don't say that you're not going to do it anymore. Just kind of talk to yourself, I'm going to take a break.
Yeah.
3 weeks, 2 weeks, whatever you feel is going to be challenging. But the whole point of this detox period is to kind of let your brain kind of reset a little bit and establish a norm without it being there.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes that takes a while to do. We talk about doing the same thing when we talk about like video game usage, for like people who are really addicted to video games and it's overwhelming. You have to have that detox period where you don't try to just cut down, but you're like, okay, I'm done. You stop, but you have to have some time away from it.
Right.
Just to kind of establish a new norm. So I would say that's the first thing. Second thing, I'd take a look at like doing kind of like a triggers inventory.
Yes.
Taking a look at, what are the
This
things...
is Willie Nelson's guitar.
Yes.
This is Willie Nelson's guitar.
Yeah, triggers.
This is not Willie Nelson's guitar.
That's a triggers inventory, ladies and gentlemen.
This is a parts triggers inventory that we just use for parts.
Yeah.
So like take some time and maybe write about this. Jot some ideas down. When do you start to get this craving to shop? What do you see, hear, feel, experience? What are all these things, the stimuli that you experience that creates this desire and this urge to go shop? Pay attention to your emotions as well. Like, what are some of the things that you're feeling when you feel this desire to shop? Is it a result of feeling really happy and really excited, or is it a result of feeling lonely, sad, hurt, depressed, anger, anything like that? Just to kind of start collecting some ideas and become aware of what's happening internally that could lead to this desire that you have.
Or when I get into things like this, a lot of times for me, it just becomes habit. It just becomes like, this is part of my life. Like,
exactly.
It's afternoon time. It's my break at work or whatever. I'll just look at Amazon.
Yes, exactly. And that's actually kind of what a trigger is, right? I mean, a trigger is anything that kind of sets those wheels in motion. So it's like certain time of day, like, oh, this is what I normally do, or patterns of behavior, even like getting in your car and taking a particular exit off the freeway. Like that can be a trigger, just being in that part of town. Like for me, I anytime I'm over by like downtown Summerlin,
okay,
that's what I always think about because that's the only time I'm ever over there is if I'm shopping for something, right? Another thing to do might be to take a look at creating a budget and starting to reinforce successes of staying within your budget. I think this would be very important. Instead of just punishing yourself and feeling bad and feeling upset for your shopping sprees, creating a budget and being able to stick to that gives you something that you can reinforce. Because positive reinforcement can be a much more effective way of changing behavior than a punishment, right? So creating some sort of incentive to not spending money. And I don't know what that might look like for you, but that would be something, a place to kind of start. Pay particular attention to the sense of accomplishment that you get and the satisfaction you feel when you're able to stay within your budget, and how good it feels to be able to be in control of that behavior.
Yeah. No, I think that's good. Another thing that I would add to this, so real quick, just a quick, teeny tiny PSA. I don't want to get too deep into this because it definitely can be a Pandora's box. There is occasionally, from time to time, something that will happen in the world that opens up a conversation about whether humans can be addicted to behaviors or whether they can only be addicted to substances. They can be addicted to behaviors. Shopping addiction is a thing. Video game addiction is a thing. Gambling addiction is a thing. And we call that process addiction. And to go back to the science of how this works, it's a very simple process. It's super self-evident. Will there be studies that sometimes pop up that say that these have more complicated aspects to them, that political or philosophical or religious worldviews can infiltrate these and make them more complicated? Absolutely. But process addictions are real. And so if you're a human who experiences process addiction, like this person who's writing, we want to take you seriously. We don't want to minimize that. We don't want to poo-poo that. Like, shopping addiction can bankrupt you. It can destroy you. It can be like gambling. It can put you in debt. You could borrow money you don't have. You could become homeless. It can be very serious. And so sometimes I think these process addictions don't always get the attention that they probably deserve because they're not obvious. It's not like, drinking the liquor underneath the bridge or, drugs, or there's not TV shows.
Well, it's also because everybody does it.
Yes, and so it's very relatable in a
right.
sense, right? Not everybody does meth, and so like we don't relate to the meth addiction. Shopping, we go,
They do,
yeah,
but they don't admit it.
Not everybody admits doing meth, but like with shopping, it's like, oh, we've all done that. We've all clicked buy now too many times, and it's like, yes, but sometimes what you don't understand is that while you can relate to this person, and that's good, don't use the fact that you don't suffer from this problem as some kind of evidence that therefore nobody does.
Right.
That's not how it works. And the basic science of what addiction is, this broken cycle system inside of the reward repeat system of the brain, that's self-evident. That just happens. Anything that the brain or body can do that increases the push from the reward repeat cycle of the brain can become a pattern and become compulsive.
I have a dark turn that I want to take from that thought process here in just a moment.
Okay.
But after we get done with the email, though.
Jacob's Dark Turn, brought to you by Premium Jane. But anyway, to the writer, one thing I would add to Nick's point, and I think that Nick nailed it. The last thing I would add is delay. And so anytime that we have a process addiction, I always want to try to remove, as far as we can, your ability to perform the behavior in an impulsive way, beyond just willpower. So that, like with the alcoholic, I say, I want you to get all the alcohol out of your house. And they go, no, I've decided not to drink. I go, okay, that's fine. I want to make it harder, though, Because if a version of you at 1 a.m. has decided he wants to drink, I want him to get in a car and have to go down to a store, find one that's open, get out his wallet, and I want it to take 30 minutes. I want you to at least have 30 minutes of thinking time before you do the thing. I don't want it to be a 1-to-1, 1 second of willpower moment.
What if I just bury all the alcohol in a hole?
Yeah, do that.
And then I have to go get a shovel.
Yeah, you got to get a shovel.
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
right. Yeah.
Exactly.
He has to do like what is that machine of like domino effects to like...
Whatever. Rube Goldberg.
Yeah, you got to be. He's going to Rube Goldberg. He's going to construct in order to get to his board.
I have to hit a squirrel with a bowling ball.
Yeah. But that's how it should be with this. Like, if you have Amazon, the buy now is very dangerous. Disconnect your card from the Amazon app. Make it so that you'd have to hand type it in at a minimum.
Last year, when you did your eating healthy thing,
Yes.
and
yeah.
I was posting lessons in PDF form on our thing. I did a whole thing on this, which was kind of, I used the example of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
Right.
Where you can't wait for Mr. Hyde to take over before you start making plans of how you're going to deal with Mr. Hyde.
Right.
Because at that point, Mr. Hyde's already in charge.
You have to anticipate that
Jekyll
that will come.
Jekyll has to make the decisions.
Yes.
And Jekyll has to create these booby traps for Hyde.
Yes.
So when Hyde takes over, you got to make it difficult.
The nature of an addiction concept is that willpower is insufficient. Therefore, you must conspire, plot, plan, and get help in order to break the cycle. And in order to do that in shopping, you must delay your ability to react. And so that's really important. We're going to take a merciful break. And when we come back, we are going to discuss therapy in marriage. You're listening to Pod Therapy.
Today's episode is brought to you by Ellie O'Dare, Judy Schneider, Mason Miller, and Leon Kassab. Would you like to sponsor the show and become a therapy producer? You can do so at patreon.com/therapy.
The best part about everything that we just did, I bet Jim has already forgotten the hint that I gave to what I think is going to be a question on this one.
No.
Oh, yes.
B.
Yes.
Arthur.
Close. All right, here's the next set of 4. Match the guitar with the guitar player.
All right.
Old Black,
Why are
Lenny.
they so... Lenny.
Lenny, Lucille, and Lucy.
Can we get names again? I'm going to need names. I don't have a chance.
Okay, I'll give them to you. If you'd like to join the therapy producers that make the show possible, go to patreon.com/therapy and sign up. Again, that's patreon.com/therapy.
I think Lucy's going to belong to a Beatle, but keep going. Go ahead and give me names.
So there's Old Black,
Uh-huh.
Lenny, Lucille, and Lucy.
Okay.
Do you want to take any stabs before I get a name?
I know one of them.
Yep. You know.
Yeah.
Which one do you know?
I know one of them.
Okay.
Yep.
Go on.
Okay.
Nick knows which one I know.
Yep. I know which one you know.
What
too.
the hell?
I think you know two. I think actually 2 for sure.
Okay.
All right. Here are the guitarists.
Okay.
Okay. We got Stevie Ray Vaughan, George Harrison,
Oh, the Beatle.
B.B. King, and Neil Young.
All right. I'm saying Lucy belongs to George Harrison because
Okay.
of Lucy and the Sky with Diamonds,
Okay.
and that affiliation makes me think things. I think Neil owns Lucille.
Okay.
Neil has a lot of songs with women's names. So I
Okay.
feel like he would name his guitar girl's name, and it would be Southern. I don't know who the other humans are. Pass.
Who are the
Stevie
other two?
Ray Vaughan,
Okay.
Neil Young.
If
B.B.
the houses
King.
are rocking, don't come a knocking.
Yep.
Okay. So I'm going to give Lenny to Stevie Ray Vaughan, and I'm going to give the Black King thing to B.B. King.
Old Black.
Old Black.
That one.
Okay.
All right. What?
Wait a minute. Is B.B. King black?
Yes.
I would like to change my answer. I would I would like to give him Lenny.
Now we got more stuff we have to cut.
Yeah.
All right. Go on.
Okay. Wait a minute. So I think I'm going to agree with Jim on Lucy.
Okay.
For
I think
Harrison.
I'm going to give Lucy to George Harrison.
All right.
What were the other guitar names? It was Old Black and
Old Black, Lenny,
Lenny.
and Lucille.
And who were the other artists?
We still have B.B. King, Stevie Ray Vaughan, and Neil Young.
So I'll say I know that B.B. King is Lucille.
Yes.
Lucille definitely belongs to B.B. King.
Correct.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I will. I'm taking a stab on the others. I think that Neil Young is Old Black, and Lenny is Stevie Ray Vaughan.
Yes.
Wow.
Correct.
That's interesting.
I figured you would get Lenny. Because Lenny was a very famous guitar, if you've ever seen it.
That
You've seen a picture of it, you just didn't know it was
Yeah.
Lenny,
No,
I'm sure.
Lenny sounds familiar, and Stevie Ray Vaughan just tickled something in my head when you said it.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't. I honestly have not in my life been aware that any artist has a named instrument that is like their
Oh yeah,
named
And as
guitars.
far as I
guitars
know,
especially.
out of those 8 that we've talked about, I think Trigger is the only one that is the same guitar.
Oh, the rest of them, it's just whatever guitar
Like
they're
B.B.
holding
King
at the time.
said, like, any guitar that I'm playing is Lucille.
Okay,
Right.
got it.
Yeah.
Whereas Trigger is actually
Now there is an original Lucille out there somewhere that I'm sure is
Right.
worth $8 billion.
interesting.
But yeah, like B.B. King said that, Frankenstrat has gone through different iterations,
Okay.
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff.
God, can you imagine? I mean, that makes it very valuable. You know, if you own Willie Nelson, Trigger,
Right.
like, and that's the one. Like,
Well, and if you see pictures of Trigger now, go ahead and just look up.
it's
As
like
you're listening, Google pictures of Trigger.
held together by string and duct tape.
Oh, it's a wreck.
Pretty much, yeah.
There are like holes in it.
Yeah.
That's the authentic sound of Nelson.
I'm sure the electronic pickup inside has been replaced.
Oh,
and
yeah.
other things have been repaired over the years.
Yeah, there's probably a strand of wood that's
it's
still the
beat to
original.
shit.
Yeah. Definitely.
Well, very good.
What's the old saying in magic? This is Houdini's wand.
Yeah.
I mean, both ends have been replaced, and the middle had to get replaced.
Yeah.
But other than that, it's Houdini's wand.
It's otherwise, it's
Yeah.
Houdini's wand. That's true. People, what do they say? We change all of our cells every 7 years, so it's the same logic. Therapy in marriage. This is a good one. It's a full question. I'm going to read this one out. Hello, guys. I'm writing in again, this time about parenting struggles. My husband and I have a 3-year-old daughter, a 7-year-old son, and an 11-year-old daughter. I've written in before about my husband's anger and the strain it's had on our marriage. I attempted to do a short-term separation since he's a truck driver, but he got a local job and we had made some progress with communication and doing our own separate therapy. My therapist left her practice and I started a job that made it hard to continue to attend, and BetterHelp got costly, so we are kind of back where we were. The issue that has been consistent lately is his patience with our children, mostly our younger two. This is not new, and the severity comes and goes, but I'm starting to see the impact it is having on our kids. I'm very much guilty of losing my patience on my kids. It's something I feel horrible about and work on daily. It's hard to swallow my pride and apologize to my kids, and I make sure to point out what I did wrong and why it's wrong to be intentional about it. My husband has done this, but not consistently. His southern raising creeps in, and it's like it's a battle to be a tough parent or a compassionate parent. Our 7-year-old son is very much like his dad. They both have ADHD and have the same idiosyncrasies that come with having ADHD. They are both loud and don't like loud noises. They struggle with patience. They both wear their feelings on their sleeves and can explode when they feel attacked emotionally. They have become oil and water, and I'm stuck in the middle. Do I back up my husband, who is hurting my son's feelings, or do I protect my son from his father's hurtful and loud words? I can see that my son doesn't trust his dad at times and doesn't want to be left alone with him sometimes. I honestly feel nervous leaving the kids with him if I can feel it may not go well. I feel if I left it up to him, he would just resort to hitting the kids to make them behave. I've tried spanking, and I feel it's not effective in most situations. It just reinforces the very thing we tell them not to do. As you can imagine, this is having a negative effect on our marriage. One day he agrees with me and my approach to parenting, and the next day he thinks I'm babying our son and spoiling him. I don't know if my husband is dealing with his own issues, and that's why we aren't making much progress in our marriage, or if this is just hopeless. I don't know what to do anymore, and I worry enough that I'm effing our kids up. I would like to feel like my husband and I aren't effing them up together, not separately. Oh, at least we're, okay, yeah, that we're effing them up together, not separately. Okay. Kidding, of course. Any advice is much appreciated, as always. Thanks, Cindy.
I tell you, Cindy mentions that the husband is from the South and everything. I'm from the deep South. I'm from Louisiana. I also have no children.
Yeah.
I've never raised a child. I don't fucking know. I have a.
But you were a child.
I was a child, and I was raised by people in the South.
Yes.
And I have a real visceral reaction when you suggest. Not when you suggest, but when you talk about telling your kids how you were wrong.
Mm.
Like, oh, why would you do that?
Oh, kind of like, like they always say, lawyers will always give you advice when you get pulled over. You never admit to anything.
Right.
Yeah.
Like that. I don't know that. And it also depends entirely on the context of like when you're telling the kid you did something wrong, how you're doing, like all of that stuff is all just as important as the telling.
Right.
But yeah, I just got to think like, but my picture in my head is in the conversation, like you yell at the kid and then you immediately stop and say like, oh, I shouldn't have yelled at you and here's why I'm wrong. Like that seems
might be like more like you circle back later and go,
yeah,
I was upset.
And apologize later. Yeah, I don't know.
What is it about that? Does it feel like you're kind of losing ground as a parent?
It seems like you're shifting the blame of not the blame, but the responsibility, I guess, of whatever has happened. Like if the kid takes a Sharpie marker and draws on the wall,
right,
and you have a bad reaction to that, you yell at the kid and you say like, you know, you're fucking up the house, kid. Maybe you curse at them or something like that. And then as soon as you apologize for that, it feels a little like you are lessening the responsibility of drawing on the wall with the Sharpie.
So it turns the conversation into how I talk to them as opposed to their behavior.
Right. Like maybe it's this. Maybe it is you are responsible for being an adult on your own. It's the conversation we just had that Jim didn't cut out. I told you I was going to keep referencing it. Just going to make it hard for Jim to cut it out. And so you are responsible for your actions on your own.
Yeah.
And if you need to go talk to your kid about your actions, okay. But you are also responsible for making that child into a responsible and functioning adult.
Yeah. And
so you can't ignore that second part just because you fucked up in part of doing it. You can't lose that part. You can't lose I have to raise this child. You can't lose that responsibility just by taking responsibility for something that you did that wasn't perfect as well.
I mean, and ultimately you could make the argument that both of those issues are about raising the child.
Yes.
Right?
Because you also want to raise the child to admit when they did something wrong and made a mistake. That's why I'm like, I'm having a hard time with it.
And when you have conflict, this is how you deal with it. I'm going to model this appropriate behavior. I do think, I think you're right in the sense that like we can address this one thing here first. This behavior was wrong.
You drew on the wall with a Sharpie.
We don't do that. Got that settled? All right. Here's the other thing. Over here, I didn't react how I wanted to in this situation.
Yeah.
I wish I would have done it this way.
I want to change this about myself as well.
Right.
And I want you to not model this behavior that I just exhibited as well. And that's fair.
Yeah. I think you can do both.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Nick and I discussing this with Jim in the room.
I'm just going to sit here and sip my
hilarious.
coffee. Fine. You guys are doing really good.
Both of us.
Really good.
Both of us. Now, true. Jacob and I do not have children, but we were raised by people who did have children.
That's right.
I would suggest that
who did.
most of our parents had children.
Yeah. That's true.
Almost everyone's parents had children.
Yes. Yeah.
Couple of thoughts. So, I actually agree with the question. I think that Jacob's circling around there is, what behavior do you want to role model to the child? Do you want to role model to the child that if somebody makes you angry, you are no longer responsible for what you do?
Right.
Or do you want to role model to the child, when you have made errors, this is how you make amends?
Right.
And this is what it looks like. So obviously, most parents would say, okay, the second thing, sure. Now, that's a whole different conversation. What Cindy talks about in the first part of the letter is, I know I've struggled with anger. I'm trying to be more intentional. I'm trying to be more under control. She mentioned, I'm taking accountability for my side of the street, and I'm struggling because my husband comes from a background where their physical discipline is sort of the standard, and so
it's tough when you're trying to change something in yourself, when you're working on something on yourself, and you see somebody else doing the thing that you're trying to fix in yourself, and they aren't necessarily working on it like you are. That's hard.
It is very hard.
Yeah.
It is very hard. I'll tell you, for me, I was raised on physical discipline, so I was physically disciplined as a kid. That was the norm. And I never had a moral objection to it. I'm
sure you did at the time.
Yeah, I'm sure as a kid I probably didn't think it was great. But even like culturally and philosophically and morally and socially and religiously.
Were you spanked in school, either of you?
No.
Yes.
Corporal punishment in schools?
Yes.
We didn't.
Very young.
We had paddling.
Yeah, we had paddling.
We still had paddling.
Yeah, we had paddling like when I was a very young kid. And then I think I moved from that place and I didn't have it anymore. So, but yeah, no, it existed. I think when I went to school in Texas, it existed. But yeah, so
I was definitely paddled like in junior high. I was paddled in elementary school, and I was definitely paddled through junior high. I don't think I ever was in high school.
Yeah.
Oh no! I had one teacher in high school who was a coach, and his thing was he had a paddle that he kept in the room, and if you did something that normally would have you sent to the assistant principal, he would either send you to the assistant principal or you could take licks.
Holy shit!
That was it. He gave you the option.
Yeah,
you can either go the non-corporal punishment way, and you might get like an in-school suspension or a detention or suspension or whatever.
Oh my god!
Or you can take a couple of licks.
So So I preface my point that I'm about to make by saying I was raised in it and don't have a moral objection to it.
Okay.
If you asked me just clinically, Jim, I'm not struggling with the morality of this. I just want to know, hey man, if you had shortcuts and hacks for how to help kids grow up and become good people, what do you think about this? Couple of thoughts. Data that I've seen in the past seems to indicate that physical discipline does not yield better results. It's just tradition. We just know to do it. And there's a couple of reasons why we don't usually recommend it. Nothing to do with like trauma or anything like that. It's not the issue. It's just ineffective, and here's why. One, it in no way resembles real life. If I'm bad at my job, I will never encounter physical violence. If I'm not good at my marriage, I should not encounter physical violence.
If you're an asshole to somebody in a bar, you might encounter physical violence.
You might, but we do not look at that as like, this is the model for society. So
I didn't say it was the model. I said it was part of real life.
It just might happen. You might, but physical violence is the exception, not the rule. And so to normalize physical violence at formative ages and formative mentalities, not the best representation.
It becomes something you have to then later fix.
Yeah, you're usually going to have to go back later and teach them we don't put hands on people.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's the classic scenario is your kid at the pool party punches another kid in the stomach and you grab him, bend him over your knee and start swatting him. You say, we don't hit people.
Right.
And then nobody sees the irony of what we're doing right now. So I just don't think it's super duper effective because it doesn't role model the rest of society. And discipline should. Discipline generally makes more sense whenever it somehow is logical. The second thing is, a lot of therapists usually note this, and I think this is true, and I can say this as a parent. Oftentimes when we are getting physically disciplinary with our children, it has more to do with our emotion.
It becomes reinforcing for the parent.
It's more about me getting out my anger, my frustration. And usually when I am getting violent, I have reached the end of my mental capacity to creatively solve a problem. When I start kicking the IKEA furniture that I'm trying to assemble, I am reducing to primitive caveman Jim.
I definitely thought you were about to say kicking your kids.
Yeah. When I start kicking my kids because they're not assembling the IKEA furniture correctly.
We just took a fucking leap here.
Huge turn.
When I drop kick my children.
That's not Jim's highest consciousness.
When I punt my daughter.
That's when I punt the kids across the yard. That is the adult reaching a reductionist place where their emotions are now driving their decisions. You are not making your best choices. Yeah. That is more therapeutic for you than it is educational for the child. And it just becomes this issue of the parent reaching the end of their patience. That's not the time when I think you're going to do your best parenting. Right. And a lot of times, physical discipline is that. Now, sometimes it's not. The way I grew up, it was not, usually. My parents would tell me, hey, you've earned a spanking. That will be delivered at 7 o'clock tonight, after Dad's had dinner.
Oh, that's nice of them.
Oh,
tell you when it's
fantastic.
Happen?
Oh, yeah. If Dad was on a business trip and I had screwed up, Mom would let him know. He'd get on the phone with me and say, I'm coming home in a week. And when I get home, we have business.
Mark it down.
I figured.
He'd come home, he'd give me a hug, we'd have dinner, I'd know this was coming, and then we'd get to the end of the night and he'd say, all right, son, are you ready to conclude our business? And I'd be like, yeah, I guess. And then he'd walk me in. He'd calmly explain.
Torture.
Oh, it was rough. It was rough. And he'd explain to me. He'd say, hey, do you remember this happening? Yeah. Do you remember you didn't listen to your mother? Yeah. Do you remember that I told you this was going to happen? Yeah. Do you understand why I'm about to do this? Yeah. Do you understand how many times I'm going to do this? Yeah. Are you ready?
Yeah. It was like, okay, I'll light the fire. You get your ceremonial robe on. and let's get this
we
done.
we were religious. You have to appreciate that was part of this.
I will say that this might be the best case of corporal punishment for a kid that I've ever heard of.
I give them credit because compared to their generation, they were quite enlightened.
Yeah,
that was a very enlightened way to do
the
it.
most warning I had was go get me a switch.
A switch, yeah, that's
and then
right.
if you came back with like either a rotten stick or something that was too small
Get a
or something
bigger
like
one.
that,
Yeah.
then it was worse.
Yeah.
I think it's nice of them to tell you when it was going to happen.
Yeah.
As
Yeah.
opposed to, you've got one coming.
Yeah. You don't know
Could
when
be
it's
today,
coming.
could
I
be
might get you
tomorrow,
in the back of the car. Yeah, you don't know when I'm going to reach back and get you.
I might just be brushing my hair, then pop you with a hairbrush.
That's right.
Who knows?
So to the
You
writer,
might be brushing your teeth.
I don't think that it works. I don't think that it works because it doesn't represent reality. I don't think it's best parenting. I do think it's usually an expression of the parents reaching the wall of their capacity. And when you reach the upper limit of what you can do sensibly, logically, and rationally, that's not your best parenting. And now it's more relieving for you than it is educational for the child.
Mm-hmm.
Your best educational work with kids is going to be what are called logical and natural consequences. That is where I'd want the writer to go. I'd want you to start Googling books having to do with what we call logical consequences and natural consequence parenting. I believe there's a whole seminar I saw years ago called like Love, Logic, and Learn. There's lots of books on this.
Yeah, we did a lot of stuff like this when I was a foster parent.
Yes,
it was a lot of the
a
closer.
lot of hitting the kids. Yeah.
No.
Sorry. You went the other way with it. Sorry.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Vicious
a lot
beatings.
of the closer you can tie the punishment to what would happen in real life, because
Right.
when I was a foster parent, they were teenage boys,
Right.
So it's like, okay, these kids when they turn 18, they're on their own,
Right.
and that's scary because like when I turned 18 and I was on my own, at college, I still had home to go back to.
Right. They don't have that.
Yeah, that's terrifying for just any 18-year-old.
Exactly.
Aging out of the foster care system is a very significant social issue, by the way.
And so
Yeah.
it's a big issue to make sure that they understand, like, hey, in the real world, this is how this works.
Right.
And I realize that you don't understand the connection between I didn't do my homework, I got a bad grade, who cares?
Right.
You have to somehow tie that into what does that look like in real life?
Right.
And that it's tough, but it can be challenging. But the more that you can work on real life scenarios, natural consequences.
Right.
Okay, so I'm supposed to be home at 5. I wasn't home at 5. I didn't go home until 7:30. Therefore, I don't have food ready for me.
Yeah.
Okay, natural
Or
consequence.
my kids.
You have to
So
go
I'll
do
give you real parenting examples. I have an 11-year-old and I have a 6-year-old. If my kids leave out their toys, hey, I would like you to clean this up. Okay, Dad. And I know they're not going to. And I'm in parenting mode. I'm waiting. I'm not going to raise my voice. I'm not going to get angry. I come back. Hey, I asked you about 5 minutes ago to put away these toys. I need you to do it right now, okay? Yeah, Dad. Do you understand me? Yeah. Okay, great. I'll walk away. Then I'll come back and look. And you know what I'll do?
Beatings.
Take the toys.
Right.
And now I've got them. And then, Dad, where's my stuff? I took it. Where is it? It's mine now.
Yeah.
Your toys are in timeout. You didn't handle your toys correctly. You did not maintain your property correctly. Now you don't have your property. Same thing with video games. Hey, I need you guys to go ahead and turn that off. It's dinner time. All right, Dad. Okay, right now though. Okay, yeah, we'll do that, Dad. And I'll sit there and I'll look at the clock and I'll wait and and that's the other thing to the writer. As a parent, you have to be prepared to be inconvenienced. Yeah. Don't go with the sharp, quick option. It's so easy to parent by just hitting and being done. The obligations are done. I did my thing. I can feel like I did my thing. I could walk away. I have to be willing to be inconvenienced. Yeah. And so I will go back and say, hey, guys, I told you 5 minutes ago to turn off the game. Oh, yeah, Dad, sorry about that. Okay, I'll reach down and turn it off. No, Dad, we got to save. No, it's off. Oh, and then I reach in the back and I pull out the power cord. Daddy now has the Xbox power cord. How do we get that back? Oh, we'll work on that. Yeah. I'll give you some suggestions about how you turn this back. But then later when they're bored and they're like, Dad, play with us, now I have to make sure that I'm being held accountable as a parent because I'm going to follow through with my parenting strategy, right? Because it's a lot easier for me to just give them back the stupid power cord, make my life easier. So I have to prepare for the bigger picture.
But then you don't have a power cord to beat them with.
You got to have that power cord. Yeah, you want to use the extension cord. You get the really flexible one.
And he's worried about emails he's going to get. But no, like, logic.
I'm just not worried about
it. Logic works. Like, I remember as a kid, like, the one time I talked back about shoveling snow in the driveway and be like, well, you can't make me shovel it. And the response I got was, I can't make you, but I can make you wish you had.
Yeah. I
Fair
have the
point.
ability to affect other things
point.
in your life.
Also,
You do.
Also, want to bet?
Yeah,
I bet I can.
that's right.
I bet I can, in essence, make you shovel the driveway.
I'll tell this story. I did spank my oldest child once, and the child at the time was about 3, almost 4. He was a terror, and it's really funny because you've met my son. Very mellow, very gentle kid, very sweet guy, very obedient.
Calls me Mr. Nick.
Calls you Mr. Nick. Yes, he does, because we're from the South originally. So yeah, I make him. It's really funny because I do that with all adults.
And I say, call me sir, God damn it.
Backhand. Jim has spanked his kid once. Nick, though, has spanked Jim's kid several times.
Nick comes over unannounced. Just says
Not
this carpet
true.
is a mess. But no, so like he's a sweet kid. But back then he was rough and he was getting in trouble in daycare. He was biting kids. He was just really disobedient. It was and I ran out of skills. And I had tried all these different things. We had read these books, and I felt like, okay, you know what? I was still a young dad. I was still new to this, and I was like, well, it worked for me. I got hit, so maybe it's time for me to up it a notch. I don't have any other tools. I don't have things to take away from him. I reached the end of my patience to continue thinking. And that's one of the reasons of personal for me, because I know for me, not for everybody in the world, but for Jim, when I hit my kid, it was not because I'm so damn smart. It was because I was impatient, I was done, and I felt like it was time to do this the old-fashioned way, and that was the end of my creativity.
You would not say that you
ceased
thought
being
through,
creative.
You didn't think through this and decide this was the best option.
Had I tried some other things? Sure. Had those failed? Yep. And then I decided, yep, there's only 10 options. And this is number 11, and this is what we're going to do.
Yeah.
And I spanked my kid once, and that was the end of it. You want to know why? I'll tell you exactly what happened. I tried to do the same thing my dad did. I said, son, do you know what you did today? And he's like 3 or 4, so he's barely there. And he's like, yeah, I was naughty at school. I was like, yep. And he didn't listen again. Yeah. And I told you you're going to get a spanking, right? And he says, yeah, what is that? And I'm like, Daddy's, and now I'm sitting there realizing, like, I'm going to tell you I'm going to hit you. Like, this is weird. But I'm like, Daddy's going to, give you pow-pows on your butt. And he's like, okay. And I was like, it's going to hurt. And that's to teach you not to do this again. And to try to explain this cultural acceptance of something to this little kid who's like, to be clear, though, because I bit somebody and hurt them, you're going to hurt me back. And I'm like,
nailed it.
Yes. And he's like, all right. And so
You're a biblical household.
Yeah, that's right. We're going to follow the Bible here, son.
Eye for an eye.
I'm going to bite
for an eye.
you.
Not
bit a kid,
super logical.
I'm going to bite
you back. So I did it, and when I did it, I light, not very hard. Obviously he's a little kid, and so
and plus you're you.
And, so plus me. So I don't think you could pick your mom or me, Dad.
Yeah,
Dad all day.
So you're saying
Mom's over there doing push-ups.
So not a close
I pick
fist?
Dad. Yeah.
Yeah.
Dad's like, just Dad, stop hitting me with the feather. Shut up. So I
Does somebody leave a window open?
I gave him a swat and waited, and he did the ouchie thing, and I gave him another swat. I was only going to give him 3. And, now he's upset. It's more startled than hurt. Mm-hmm. And then I give him another swat, and that was the 3rd one. And he's crying, and he looks at me and goes, hit me again! And I was like...
And this time put some stank on it.
And it backfired. Because
Right.
he just Buffalo Billed me.
Yeah.
Hit me
he did.
again. Like he's just standing there, do it again. Do it again. And I just realized...
Oh, this
isn't
gonna
working.
Work.
Yeah, he's like,
This isn't going to work for me.
he's like Captain America.
Yeah,
I can do this all day.
I can do this all day. You're going to hurt your arm before you hurt me.
Yeah.
But just the weirdness of the
How's
whole
your
thing.
hand feeling, bitch?
Yeah. I'm hurting, not you. And so, like, the weirdness of the whole thing caused me to sit down afterward and just think about it. And I was like, that was not me, the smartest guy I could be. That was me doing reductionist stuff that I just learned when I was young. I don't think I got the result that I wanted out of this.
Right.
I don't think he learned anything.
You learned something.
And I just kind of walked away and said, I'm going to try to be more clever than this. And then I did and came up with better ways to solve each problem.
So here's the second piece for Cindy. One parent's on board, the other one is not.
That's tough. Yeah, that's real.
That's real tough.
That's a much harder problem to solve, which is why we waited until now to get to it. Because I don't have a good answer for that. I mean,
as we're sitting here, not joking around about it, but lightheartedly discussing this.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think through that, and yeah.
I mean, I guess that comes back to marriage counseling, comes back to family counseling. If that's not available right now,
that's my best
it comes
answer.
down to the team meeting, where you sit down and you say, I just don't think that, and this is the best thing I'll ask people. If I've had this conversation with parents, and I always tell them, I'm not here to impose the way I parented on your family. You guys got to figure this out for yourself. It is legally allowed to discipline your kids physically, so I don't have a care. As long as, you guys don't cross these boundaries, you're not going to hear me. But let's talk. And if I have a parent that says, well, this is how I was raised, and this is, and I'll say, okay, but look around where we are right now. You're in a therapist's office. Is your way working?
Mm-hmm.
And if the answer is no, are you open to trying new things? Are we open to this book? Are we open to, being creative? Because I don't think your method's working right now. And I don't think it's because you're not hitting them hard enough.
And also, not just whether or not it's working, can it work better? Is there a way that it can work better? Can it be more effective? Are there better ways to do this? And it's you have to get buy-in from that other parent, and that's really hard to do. But I think you have to be on the same page. The thing that she says that really sticks out to me is like, so whose side do I pick?
Right.
Do I side with my husband, or do I be there for my kid?
I think it's a really tough position because I don't want you having to comfort
because
the child.
Ideally, you want the answer to be both.
Yeah, I don't want you to have to rescue the child or comfort the child from the discipline of the parent. But if you're feeling like, I don't feel like I can trust my husband to be patient enough or to be intentional enough as a parent, and if I leave my kids with them and they do something small or something that annoys him sufficiently, I think he'll just react physically, and that's not part of my parenting strategy anymore, and that's not the system I want, then it's a significant concern because it's not going to work. You can't have one person with one parenting program and the other person with a whole other parenting program. That ain't going to work. So you're going to have this heart to heart. And if I love the way you're saying it, Cindy, to sit down with your spouse and say, I struggle with trusting you that we're going to do this the same way, or that we're both trying to do things differently. And he may say, my authentic truth is, I don't agree with your thoughts. I don't agree with your concerns. Mm-hmm. It was good enough for Grandpappy. It's good enough for me. And I don't care. And okay, then at least you guys are communicating, but we're going to have to find a way forward. And so I would ask him, what are you willing to consider? Are you willing to consider anything before this? Before you go straight to hitting, is there anything else you're willing to consider? Because if your boss beats you every time you screwed up, I don't think that you'd learn to be better at your job. I think you'd learn how to evade the boss.
Oh, there's a really good, as we're going through the exit stuff, I'm going to see if I can find this book. This program is a parenting program that we did when I worked for the foster care agency. Mm-hmm. I reached out to Brian, see if he still has that.
Okay.
But I would look for some resources in that department if you really can't get into like family therapy, because I think that's where it would be very helpful. If you can get somebody who specializes in childhood behavior, that would be ideal, because then I think your husband would see that as less of a threat.
Yeah, maybe.
It's not necessarily about family therapy.
But the writer
them,
did say they're struggling with that.
Exactly.
Financially, it's a pinch.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, they don't have access to
and
that.
if you don't have access to that, I want to see if I can find that book.
There's some really great resources. And that's what's nice about the parenting psychology area. It's something so universal where we all struggle with it. We all have to figure it out. Nobody gets a pass where their kids were just easy. Everybody has to figure out how to parent their kids. And again, I'm not here to say hitting is inherently never going to work, not okay. I'm saying I think the data says it's not effective. In my human experience, I've seen it ineffective. I've seen other things be more effective. And I know that like in foster care and other things, when we're training people and we're saying, you don't get to revert to caveman to solve this because you'll go to jail for it, they have to be more creative, more clever. And I think that's parenting. I think now you're getting involved in how to create a program that is intentional about your kids. And I think that's parenting. So we want to steer some resources too. If we're not able to mention them in this taped episode,
I'll try to put it in the show notes.
At least look at the show notes, because we can definitely link to some books and stuff in there to give you some resources.
Yep.
All right. End of the show. And first show of the month, we want to remind you guys that there should be a interview on our Patreon. Go to patreon.com/therapy. And every month, for the last 3 months, we've been posting interviews with special mental health-related guests. And this month, we have a hypnotherapist who explains how hypnosis works, how she uses it clinically, what she got into it to do, and where its limits are, which is a very powerful interview. Tammy Reutman was a really excellent guest. And so that'll be great to start off April. And if you missed it, you can go back to one of the last patreon.com/therapy posts in March, where we reviewed and watched What About Bob? Really great movie. A lot of fun. You can watch it live with us. Just order it on wherever you order movies. And hit play, and we'll tell you what part we start our tape at, and you can come along with us for the journey.
And quick sum up, Jim, what about Bob?
What about Bob? I found Bob charming. I found Bob to be great.
Bob was a better therapist than his therapist.
No spoilers. No spoilers.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, no spoilers. I was going to... Yeah, we'll leave it there.
Okay.
Let's just say I'm going to order the
Fair
book
enough.
Death Therapy. I thought that was solid. That would have been a great name for a podcast. Or our metal band. I feel like that would be cool. Death Therapy, right?
Oh, Brian got back to me.
Okay, what's the book?
While Nick is reading that text message, I'll just say that I've never thought of a person that I think Jim would identify more with than Bob in What About Bob?
Yes, I get it. He's just there. He's just happy to be there, enthusiastically
just carrying his goldfish.
Carrying his goldfish around. That was hilarious. Good movie.
He does not remember the name of the book.
Wonderful.
So,
great addition,
I
Brian.
will.
Thanks, Brian. We want to thank all of you who support us.
Well, we got some new theropods.
Oh, call them out.
Sally Boop Scoop and
Woo-woo.
Charlie Quinn Starling, our new theropods.
Hey,
Fantastic.
Charlie Quinn. Cool. Thanks for joining us. That's awesome. So we want to thank all the folks who are supporting us at the theropod level, therodactyl level, and theraproducer level. We always thank everybody at the beginning of the month. Of course, theraproducer level gets thanked every single show because they are the bosses. But we want to thank all the theropods. We want to thank Dan Martin, Kate Keller, Corey Owens, Linda Brandmeier, Scoopstronaut, Lori Eltzroth, Brad Kefauver, Scoopaholic, Tracy Replogle, a.k.a. my mom, Joseph Pengrazio, Gavin Bristow, Carrie Terhark, a.k.a. Nick's sister, Stacy Westerlin, Richard Bruin, Scoopy, Jess, Ian Whitefall, Chelsea Saracen, Craig Little, James K, Katie Chiwakowski, Sally Boop Scoop, Don Dorr, Jim Hunter, Adam Rabiznik, Brooks Lyle, Jeffrey Ackerman, 3 Scoops a Lady, Matthew Nair, Elliot Lamb, Todd Canfield, David Sorensen, Felicia Butler, Chelsea Lamb, Scoopatron, Lauren Izzo in the Hizzo, Stacy Coleman, I Have the Knack, Sundog, Adam Petanuzzo, Mats Lenegren, Rocco, Take It Evie Podcasts, and by the way, Take It Evie, we're with you, and just know you're in our thoughts. Ian Soto, Jessica Cyphers, Lauren Dotson, Scott Ashlock, Heather, Charlie Quinn Starling, and Nate McLaughlin.
And we have a new therodactyl, Frozen Cusser. Welcome to the
pterodactyls.
Whatever.
The gaggle?
Gaggle.
The gaggle of
gaggle.
pterodactyls.
And we want to thank all of our therodactyls, Robert Ward, Lauren, Ryan Stewart, Slurpee Kaye, motherfucker, Angie
Still can't believe
Ellis,
that's a name. Angie Ellis.
Tom Morrison, Andrea Anderson, Cindy Ash, Lindsay Bashara, Fred Bashara Jr., Frozen Cusser, David Pollock, Ice Blue Scoop, Tess Miller, Scott Brady, Brian Lehman, and Robert Paulson.
His name is Robert Paulson. And we want to thank our bosses, the Saccharin 16, the mysterious and shrouded Illuminati members of the fan club, that they're producers. Thank you, Smitty Scoop, Jake Schneider, Robert Brownie Jr. Mint, Kayla Lansbury, Elio Dare, Judy Schneider, Nathan's Hot Dog Scoop, Dr. Ben Dawn, Crazy Manana Scoop, Mason Miller, Scott Jameson, Carolyn Albert, Leon Kassab, Kevin Chamberlain, Malaya, and Richard Macy.
If you'd like to hear this episode uncut and unedited,
And why wouldn't you?
and enjoy our spontaneous side projects, go to patreon.com/therapy, and thank you for supporting mental health.
That's all the time that we got for this week's session. We want to thank our landlords, Matt Mattingly's Ice Cream Social Podcast, and thanks to those of you who contributed to our show today. We really appreciate it. Remember, pod therapy isn't something you should keep all to yourself. Share this episode with someone who needs it by opening the episode's description in your podcast app and copying and pasting the link provided into your social media. Don't forget, you can find us at facebook.com/podtherapy, on Twitter at PodTherapyGuys, and at patreon.com/therapy.
You want to submit a question to the show? Ask anonymously at podtherapy.net or email us at podtherapyguys@gmail.com. I'm Nick Tangeman.
I'm Jim Jobin.
Thanks, and we'll see you for appointment next week. I just put in a Google search an Amazon search for parenting books.
Okay.
There's more than a few.
They didn't have any?
Yeah, go ahead and filter out the ones written by Bill Cosby. Start there.
There's, God, I wish I could remember the guy.
And you know what? Bing Crosby, too. Go ahead and remove those.
Yeah.
If you hit your kid with a sack of oranges, it won't leave a mark.
You want to use sweet Valencia oranges.